before you start talking about your thing,
Yeah.
we could just start the podcast with this.
Yeah.
Just explain your beef with country music.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like it. There's the odd song. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't like it.
Oh yeah, but like what's the reason?
I don't know. What is it? I don't like
what
the music.
about it
I don't like the
specifically?
music. I don't like
So if there was no lyrics, you wouldn't like the
I
music.
still wouldn't like the music.
The
No.
twangy, like you don't like
I
that?
find it's like too trying to appeal to, like, that's my thoughts on it, is trying to appeal to everybody. And like having a cold beer on a Friday night's like the main sentence in every song. It's really, oh wow.
Yeah. Fair
That
enough.
makes it pretty cool. With the
Yeah.
cowboy. I just don't like it.
All right.
I don't like it.
Fair enough.
And apparently I'm one of very few.
I wouldn't say
I'm
very
a meathead.
few.
You know that. Right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say very few.
Right, but
There's a lot of people that don't like
be
it.
very clear, I'm a meathead.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of meatheads still like country.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
so I like it. It's good vibes.
Yeah, I don't like
That's why I know.
it. You're never
I
going
know.
to change that.
So if you could go to like a good, are there any country artists that you like?
Country artists. Well, okay, I'd go back to like a
Conway Twitty?
Willie Nelson.
Oh yeah. What about
But
Conway? Do
He
you like
has
Conway?
country, but he slides over to something else.
Yeah.
Conway Twitty. Why would you pull out Conway Twitty?
Because it's funny.
I know. Yeah, no, I don't like Conway Twitty.
No?
Although there's a song way back in the 70s I think is pretty good, but I don't
Alright.
like Conway Twitty. Like a lot of people like the Johnny Cash. No.
Yeah.
I
See, I like the newer country stuff. I don't like the deep country twang
yeah, I can't
type
stand
stuff.
it.
The odd song maybe.
Yeah.
But I like more the newer stuff where it's more like rockish country.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Yeah, I
even
know you don't
more.
like it. I know.
Bothers me even
Yeah,
more.
I know.
It's like that question I always ask is, what are you?
Yeah, I know.
man.
What are you trying to be?
What are you? What are you
Yeah.
trying to be
What are
with
you
your
trying
life?
to be? I know. Funny. But you like AC/DC.
Yeah, well, so this is I probably made made some enemies today, not saying I don't like country music.
They'll be fine.
I'm out of favor with people now, I'm sure. But yeah, I love like the heavy shit. So okay, so why I want to talk to you about this a little bit is, remember several times you've asked me if there's one concert to go to, what would it be?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Metallica would be up there for sure. Zeppelin, like that would
For
be
sure.
unbelievable. And I'm like, AC/DC would probably be up there. And the more I thought about it, I think you were on the same page after. You're Journey, right?
I think Journey would be sick. Journey,
Yeah, it would be
like a
sick.
greatest hits concert of just Journey.
Yeah,
Like, I
okay.
would
So
like that a lot.
this is the point when we talk about AC/DC.
Yeah.
The list never ends.
Yeah, they have 498 songs.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Oh, like I'm so.
I'll look it
gullible.
up. Good talk. I'll look it up.
But there's so, like, it never ends. So, the other night when I got home, 3 nights ago, I got home. Nice afternoon. Wanted to be alone, so I went outside, put a speaker outside, and I YouTubed AC/DC live at the River Plate.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you like it?
Over 100,000 people.
Yeah, and you like
Jumping
it 'cause-
from
yeah.
start to finish. So first you got to put this in perspective. And the reason I talk about this, that I'll talk about it on here, is because I want you to, like, for the players to relate this as being a hockey player. Okay? It's all about greatness. That's what I would say. It's about greatness and looking at the whole concept of this concert. You look at the stage, you look at the people, you look at the lighting, you look at the talent, you look at the songs. It's a never-ending. From the first note, people are like, "Yeah, I can't wait to hear this song." Up and down, 100,000 people chanting the whole time. So when I look at that, it fires me up, right? So I'm sitting in my backyard on a day where I'm come home tired and I just want to be alone, and I just get fired up. So what I see with this is over 100,000 people going up and down chanting every word, and they're from a different country, right? You see the light show that they have, the Hell's Bell, the bell that
Oh my
rings,
God.
the 21
The
gun
best.
salute, man.
Yeah.
The first the TNT, and then oi 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 oi, like,
Yeah.
and everyone's doing it, and it's like everybody is 1,000% into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an incredible feat. So as I sit there, I always put myself into, like, for me, because I don't play hockey anymore, it's into the business. It's like that's the kind of shit that inspires me. Like, it's about the greatness. It's about going every day, and if you can find that inspiration, then you wake up every day and you can get going, right? So, anyways, let's backtrack. I'm watching this, and what's neat about it, how the band themselves play, is the show is about Angus Young. So Angus is the guitar player. Now this guy in this um, concert. So this is a few years ago. He's probably 194,
Yeah.
maybe 100, maybe 200 years old.
Yeah.
No, but
Old.
he's 60s to 70. And this guy from the start to finish is doing his Angus Young in the schoolboy outfit, up and down that stage, just jamming the guitar and never ending. And what's cool about it is it's basically he's the show.
Right.
Like legit, he's the show with all the lights and stuff. And he's got energy from start to finish. And then he'll to go off on a tangent, and everybody like the team part, he'll go off on a tangent, and it might be 15-minute guitar solo that never gets boring, and then they just bring it back like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible. They used to say that about Led Zeppelin. They used to bring that Jimmy Page would go off, and then it would be like they'd get right back at it. Like it's amazing to me.
Yeah.
But this guy has energy. Wow. So, but what happens is the singer sings, and he still does his thing. Angus does his thing. The singer will sing, and it goes a little bit focus him, but Angus is doing his things. And the back, like the guitar, his brother Malcolm Young, and the guitar player, I forget his Cliff, I think his name is. They always back up. They're like almost hidden.
Yeah.
Until they have to come out and do the backup vocals. They walk up to the mic, blah blah blah. Then thunderstruck,
Yeah,
and then they go back. You never see them, but it's an Angus Young show basically.
Yeah.
But it's neat to see how the dynamics of the team work. And if you think about it, it's like AC/DC. Some people would not know who a couple of the guys in the band are because
Right.
it's so predominantly Angus, right? Take that as a hockey team. That's those backup guys make the band though, right?
That's right.
Angus is the show, but everybody else without them, they can't be whatever. So there's that. So anyways, it just goes on and on and on. And I sit there and my wife popped in and like she got home from work and she looked at me and she just starts laughing because I get right into it, right? Like I'm not being weird about it, but I'm just sitting there and so it inspires me from where did this start from? How did they build it so tight? How do they last this long? How could they be this good? How can it be hit after hit after hit? How does everybody know who AC/DC is? Angus Young with the energy, it's amazing. So look at a hockey player like I just question sometimes like how people cannot be inspired. So I was thinking about that there and I was like, what inspires you as a hockey player, right? Because I know some guys are like vanilla sometimes. They just walk around. It's like I'm not into the game, but there's things like that can actually get you fired up.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that. Could be the David Goggins book. Could be watching a YouTube video of something that gets you fired up. It could be seeing something over and over. But there's so many cues out there to get you fired up that gives you actual energy. Like I know motivation is not something that gets fleeting, but if you keep throwing it in your face, it can inspire you to do more. That's why like so as a hockey player, like do you just go play or do you want to have the greatness in you? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually want to be great? And I think a lot of people don't really maybe even understand that they could be great. They could because the grind of getting to being great is really hard. But it's like so you get in a tight game with a full crowd and your team needs a big hit. Like, don't you want to be the one that does it? And how do you do it night after night, 3 games in 3 nights and all that stuff? That's the stuff that makes you great. And if Angus Young could go out night after night after night after night with that kind of energy for on a tour, a 24-year-old hockey player should be able to find the same passion. But you could just see it. It's all about the passion, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, I think that's what separates the people that are great from the people that aren't, though. It's that exact thing.
No,
like,
I know.
This guy can be 70 years old and still wearing his little short shorts, going across the stage, shredding. But the interesting point that I like from what you're talking about is that team dynamic thing. That's really interesting to me because not everybody can be the star of the show. I say this a lot we've talked about this with on teams. If you have more than one guy that always wants the puck, it's actually not really a good thing, because only one guy gets to have it. So if you got 3 guys on the same line that all want to have the puck, that could actually be kind of dysfunctional, So it's you watch back to the AC/DC. If you're watching the band, yeah, it's the Angus Young show, but if you don't have the singer that with the raspy voice that can get the crowd hyped up,
Changes everything.
Like, does Angus ever say a word? Like, not
Yeah, he
really.
does.
Yeah.
But this is the really neat thing. He does, and like sometimes he'll throw a mic on him,
Mhm.
and he's not a great singer or anything.
Right.
But when he does it, like people go nuts.
Right, but
But
he's not
every
the
little
guy.
thing he does,
But
right,
he's not the guy that sings.
right,
So you got the guy on the mic that can actually be the front man to
yeah,
say the words that
yeah,
need to be said.
yeah,
And then you got the guys in the back that make the song sound how it sounds.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the guy that's hitting the bell on Hell's Bells.
Yeah,
Without that guy, there's no Hell's Bells.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like if you're
Yeah,
you're just going to a show and it's just Angus on the stage, it's
yeah.
not the same show
No,
anymore.
not at
It's
all.
not the same team. And
Yeah,
everybody wants to be Angus Young, but somebody needs to be that singer and you get to be in AC/DC. It's like, do you want
yeah,
to be in AC/DC or
yeah,
no?
yeah.
Right? So maybe you don't get to be Angus Young, but you're in
Yeah.
AC/DC. That's pretty cool.
And
You know?
think about the longevity and legacy they have.
Hmm.
I started my first AC/DC album was "Let There Be Rock," I think it was called.
Mm.
It was I was like 9 or 10 years old when I first started, maybe even younger. I'm 53, and they're
Mhm.
still going. It's incredible.
Yo, I just like the team. I like the team thing though, because I
Yeah,
think it's a good parallel to the hockey environment too. It's like not everybody's going to be the star of the show, but everybody has their role.
and something
You know?
worked because it's the same team,
Exactly. It's the same team.
if you can believe that.
Yeah, it's the same
What
team.
another music thing that I've said this before. I was watching the Heart when they got inducted to
Yep.
the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of
Yeah,
Fame,
you've said this before.
and
Yeah.
it just goes back to it because I love picturing this. Like, so Anne Hart, I think her name is. Anne is the guitar player. So she came up, real beautiful lady, and she was talking about what they went through to get there and stuff. But as she's talking, she's got this finger. She's got band-aids on her fingers going
Mhm.
into the Hall of Fame, and it's like she's still working, man. Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, and it's like she's still grinding it out so that she bleeds. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like those little things catch me, and I encourage players. Even if you're not a hockey player, listen to this. I encourage you to, when you look at things, look at like the things that are underneath, because a lot of people would look at that speech if they saw it from Ann Hart or Nancy, whatever it is, and listen to the speech and go, "Oh, cool," but never notice the Band-Aid. Like, why does she have a Band-Aid?
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
she cut it cutting lettuce or something,
Yeah.
but I don't think so. Because on these two fingers.
Yeah.
But so, question for you: do you like? And I know that motivation is not necessarily a thing, but do you have something that like gets you inspired, like a go-to thing? Do you ever need it?
That's a good question. Not anymore, I don't think.
Maybe because you get a steady diet of
Yeah,
of
there's
good
that,
things.
but there's nothing really that um it's like I'm not training for one thing in particular. So if you have a show or you have a competition or you have a game or you have something where it's crunch time and I need to perform, maybe I would still have it, because I did have it when I played and I had it before, and like I could listen to the motivational speech guy, or what I used to do is just watch players that I liked. I would watch like highlight videos of them making really nice plays or whatever it was. Music could always do it for me, and I vividly remember getting like super fired up to go to the gym, to go to my game, to go to a practice even. And I don't really have that anymore. Like the motivation thing, like we talk about all the time, is it's actually kind of, it bugs me when people. It's nice to feel motivated. It's nice to
Yep.
feel when you feel motivated
Sometimes a
and
jump
you're
start.
you're hyped up. It's nice, like it's a good kickstart, but you don't need it. It's not necessary to have. So for me, I don't have that anymore. There's things that I can still get into more of a fired up mood, and it could be a song. It could be like when Hell's Bells comes on.
Oh, it's incredible.
That's about as close as I'll get to when I was 17, going to the gym and like just absolutely hyped to go squat or deadlift or something like that. Or before my game, if you get like the pre-game warm-up mix going in the dressing room, that was one where it wasn't necessarily the music itself, but it was just the music cued you into what was going on around you a little bit, and that would get me fired up. But to me now, it's not really, there's not really a question of motivation anymore. It's more just like a habit now. So the motivation is kind of gone. There's certain times where I'm more motivated than others, obviously, but I don't get that stomach feel where it's just like, man, I'm so excited or so looking forward to doing the thing that I'm about to go do. It's pretty neutral, and probably like what you said, you get the steady diet for so long.
Yeah, you
It's
get a
just kind of
steady diet, but it's good to have a steady diet because, like we talk about, you are who you hang out with. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future.
Mhm.
So sometimes friends can be books, friends could be music, friends could be because it's what's feeding your brain, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I do on a steady diet too, like if I watch TV, seldom I'll watch a movie because my family's there. I'll just like I think a couple weeks ago I actually said I'm just gonna watch a movie and
Yeah.
laugh, right? Like
Like as
that.
part of the group setting kind of thing, like when there's
Yeah,
people
or
around.
but
Yeah.
very very seldom I'll sit there and I'll say I'm gonna watch a movie for the sake of watching a movie because that doesn't really do it for me. But what I can do is like if I do watch TV, it's either going to be something to do with sports or well, e like 30 for 30s, those ESPNs, or like I've been watching when I've been watching because in the last 6 weeks being tired when I do watch TV, I'll watch TV now. I started reading again the other day, but I watch TV because it's like I'm brain dead, right? So what I did is I started just watching bios of boxers, and you want to just it's not about get necessarily being motivated, but it's about going. There's so many lessons in the boxing life, in hockey, football, all these different things, because where people come from and stuff, right? It's almost the same story with different twists to it, but it's like I think as a player, coach, whatever, you can draw so much from that stuff, and you can just see, okay, this is. It's good to know that you think that you're having a tough time, maybe, but there was so much tougher, and you get through it if you choose to, and you fight through, and that's what it's about. It's always finding the fight. So even though not necessarily always going for this major goal like in hockey, trying to win, get the playoffs, make a team, and all that stuff. For us in our business, we're always trying to be the best that we can be. That's a true statement. We're always trying to be better than anybody else to the best of our abilities in a humble way, by the way, and always trying to bring out the best and always pursuing a goal and pursuing things. So I think it's important that that steady diet of seeing people fight, because that's what you're in every day is a fight, right? It's not necessarily a physical contest, but it's a fight. And for me, I look at Angus, so there's another mode of inspiration there, because I have goals of skating for a long period of time, or long period of time for a long time for when I'm older, and doubt does creep in. Like it's really weird. Doubt does creep in. Like after 3 weeks, and the back is starting to tighten up and stuff. It's like okay, doubt does start coming in, and when doubt comes in, you reason with doubt a little bit. Maybe I'm getting a little bit old. Yeah, like 53 is a long time to be an old guy to be skating on the ice for 6 hours a day for this. Maybe I'm going to have to slow down. But then you go and see an Angus Young or what's his name, Mick Jagger,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're
Buzz and
70s and 80s
yeah,
and they're going. It's like okay,
yeah,
maybe I'm not old, right? So
yeah.
so you draw from that inspiration a little bit, and it's cool. But then it's you don't just draw from it. There's not I don't want to say an action plan, but there's things you can do. So for example, in my case, back tightens up, knees are sore, whatever it is. Okay, so I can ignorantly go through and say I can do this till I'm 75 or 80, or I can stretch, do mobility, eat properly, continue to work out, drink lots of water, lay off the booze, da 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 da, to give yourself a fighting chance. So within the story, there's a story.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think it turns instead of it being like you said, there's no performance goal or anything in the same way as like a high end athlete or a performer or whatever. We still have our own like performance metrics, you could call it, but it's not really to the same degree. But to me, it's like I don't really aim at that anymore. I kind of aim at feeling like that flow state. It's like I want to be in that as much as possible where I'm just really engaged in what I'm doing and like I find what I'm doing really meaningful or whatever and a lot of things play into that. Like you need to make sure that you feel good and your body and your mind are both in the right place to be in that state. And then going after things that you care about doing to make sure that you're doing them well. Like those are the things that I use and then my measurement is when I was doing that I feel like I was really did the time just fly by. It's kind of that. That's kind of my measure. Like getting into that, that's kind of what makes me not I wouldn't say fired up in the same sense as, getting motivated to go play a game or whatever. But that's kind of the new frame that I have. It's like I want to be in that as much as possible because it just feels really good to be in that. And that's kind of the new goal that I have. And then, there's certain things like you said with the skating that you need to do to sustain that. And there's got to be whether it's a body thing, whether it's a mind thing, whether it's a habit, it could be a weight goal, it could be any whatever fill in the blank of whatever you need to deliver on the thing that you're doing if you want to keep doing it for a long time. And it'll depend on what the job is or what the task is that you want to do. Like yours is really physical, obviously, so there's going to be a lot of emphasis on doing things with your body to make sure that you're sharp. But if you're not getting inspiration or finding it from places like wherever you're looking, the concert of AC/DC or the guy that sold me the suit that I talked about last week or whatever, if you don't have enough, wherewithal to pay attention and notice those things, then you don't get that little boost. And when the doubt starts to creep in, then you start going down the doubt path, and you see Angus ripping on stage, and you just say, "Oh, that's cool," instead of saying, "Well, maybe I could look at what I'm
Yeah,
doing."
maybe I got more lemon or juice in the lemon.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that's why I think it's important for kids too. Like I asked one of our guys the other day about he's sitting here, little kid, kind of, he's not shy, but he's more quiet. And I was just like, "What do you do when you're at home?"
I heard it. Yeah.
Like, what do you do when you're at
There
home?
you go.
And his answer, this is the answer. And guys, like, this is not an answer. Just so you know, I said, "What do you do when you're at home?" Like, I genuinely am curious. And he says, "I don't know.
Yeah, I heard him. I was right there. I
I
laughed.
don't know."
The thing is if you don't, who does?
Yeah. But it's like, what do
Yeah,
you mean you
yeah.
don't know?
And he
Like,
said,
how do
"I
you
don't know."
Yeah, how do you not know? What do you do?
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't know, just like go on my phone." And it's like, guys, I get that you're a teenager. I get that the phone is really distracting. It's really addictive. And all of us, every single person I know, you go through phases where you're just glued to it. And it's easy to get scrolling. It's easy to play whatever stupid game you're on a kick on, Clash of Clans or whatever these kids are playing now. But it's such a waste of time,
Yeah.
man. It's
Well,
such a waste
to
of
add to
time.
that, I'm glad you kind of brought that up because didn't mean to just talk about AC/DC and music and how you should be inspired. Because let's say you don't even want to be inspired, like you don't care and you don't get what I'm saying. From a hockey's perspective, I'd like to put it a different way: is you have no choice but put something in your brain, whether you think you're doing it or not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So whether you're sitting here doing nothing, something in your brain is working. It's evolution because you always have to be aware, and your brain will filter out what needs to be remembered for certain times or whatever. But having said all that, your subconscious mind never forgets.
Mhm.
So as a hockey player or in life, doesn't make a difference. Your brain is picking up things, thoughts, and what you say to yourself and what you hear, and whether you intend on hearing something or not. Like for example, I learned this from a motivational. Like I think he was like a motivational guy. He said if you could sing. Did you ever watch Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Do you know the words to the song?
No.
Okay, Gilligan's Island, anything like that. But anyways, I'm using
I
that
know
because
those.
someone said that. Why do you know the words to those songs? Like
Heard it a million times.
you heard
the
it a
Barney
million-
song.
right? Okay, the
Yeah.
Barney song for you because you're younger.
I still could sing it right
Yeah.
now.
So you didn't sit there and say, okay, I as a kid watching Barney
Right.
going, okay, I want to learn the song so I could sing it when it comes on TV and I could, eat a peanut butter and jam sandwich and have have a greatest day as a kid. That's not what you did. What happened is you heard it so many times it's in your brain.
Yeah.
So when you go through life, that's exactly what happens. It's a blank canvas and then things have been thrown there. So your subconscious mind doesn't forget. So it's a matter of putting more in than of what you want, like if you can control it, than not. So this is what I'm saying about who you hang out with is what you're going to be like. You're going to hear, if you hang around with people that are just, I don't even want to say negative, but let's just say obviously negative,
Or
to talk
not
about people.
aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah, but
whatever.
let's keep it like so a kid can take this. If you had someone that always you're hanging around with people that make excuses and complain and criticize other people and are jealous and are just more on a negative state, you're not choosing to take their thoughts and put them in your head. But every time they say that, you're hearing negative stuff. Now, if you hang around with someone that doesn't accept it and they're not talking about people all the time, they're looking at maybe getting better and finding things to improve themselves, then that goes in your brain. And whatever you have more of is what you're going to be. So your brain is whatever goes in is going to come out. It's the rule of computers, right? Garbage in, garbage out. You can't control it, right? If you watch enough, like on your feeds on your computer, if you whatever you were putting in there the most, as soon as you type in the letter A, that's going to come up on the screen because you've been there the most, right? So that's your brain. So my point of listening to AC/DC or watching the concert and going into that little rant was because it's inspiring to me, right? The point of watching ESPN 30 for 30s or watching stories about boxers is because it's all positive stuff. So I'm actually whatever I'm controlling, as opposed to watching um, just a random thing, or watching YouTube aimlessly. I'm controlling somewhat what I'm putting in my brain. So what happens is, at some point when you're in a challenge, or your natural reflex when something comes up, good, bad, ugly, whatever, is you have something to pull from, and your brain is going to pull from the thing that you put in the most. Does that make sense? So it's really important as players that your mindset is filled, whether you like it or not, because it's gonna be filled with something. To choose more often than not what you're putting into your head. That's either friends, it could be music, it could be movies, it could be books, it could be whatever it is. But you're listening to something. Your brain is because what happens is when you're searching for an answer, like when someone says I'm not big enough to play, and they've said that long enough, and then you say, well, I'm going to try out. I got drafted to the Kitchener Rangers. Um, I'm I'm not very big though. That's already there. So if you tell yourself that long enough, that's what you're pulling out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. The I want to pick up on the thread you were saying. Even for people that listen that maybe don't play hockey or they don't care about what we're talking about necessarily, you do though. And the reason that you do is because if you ask people the things that they want, or like what they if they could have things exactly the way they want them, whether it's like it could be a relationship thing with their job, with their kids, with their whatever, everybody wants it to be better or as good as possible, or I wish this conflict didn't happen, or whatever it is. So even outside the context of just learning to perform in sport, if you're just mom and dad and your kid plays hockey and the reason you listen to this podcast is because your kid plays hockey, there's still like a relationship with someone in your life that you wish was better, and there's something you could do to make that better. But if you never go looking for an answer in a place where you're going to find it, then you won't get it. And then you wake up feeling like shit every day because you have no habits about having a good pre-bed routine. You don't have any good diet habits. You don't have anything, and you wake up and you feel like shit, and you go to your job that you hate, and you sit there in the chair for 6 hours and hate that, and can't wait till that's over. And then you get home, and then you're pissed off because you still have to make dinner, and then your kids come home and they're running around, and you're yelling at them because you're tired from your day. And it's like that. This all still applies to that, because your daily life is still a performance. And that's kind of what I was saying about with myself now. Something I learned from sport, when you have to get ready for the big game, or when you have to get ready for fill in the blank event where it's clear to everyone that this is something where you need to perform. Your daily life is no different. It's still a performance either way. You have to perform with your family, you have to perform at your job, you have to perform in whatever you're doing. So all of these little things that we're talking about, it doesn't just apply to the kid that wants to be the athlete. It especially applies to kids that want to be an athlete and perform, because you can get by in life without giving a shit if you want to. Like it's not optimal, and you won't feel as good as you could feel. But it's like, what else do you have to do? You have nothing better to do with your day. It's like, what better thing could you do than just try to make your day the day you want, and you want it to go exactly the way it should go. If you could make it however you want it, wouldn't you want it to be that? you know? And so you have that ideal, and then you can try to work towards making it that. At the very least, you could do that. And so when people, a lot of times if we do an episode like this or whatever, when we're talking about more of the mindset type things that apply specifically to athletes, a lot of people will like fast forward it or skip that episode or whatever. But your life is a game too. Your life is the game that you have to play every day, and it's not on TV or on a camera, or there's not a lot of people looking at it or judging you for it that you can tell, but it's the exact same stuff. And if you ask people what they want, like everyone says that they want this to be better, or that to be better, or I wish I could do this, or whatever. And when I look back for myself, something I say a lot from a hockey perspective, and maybe this goes back to like the athletes that we're talking to. When I look back, and I've said this to you before, if I would have known what I know now when I was playing, like how much better would that have been for me? And had I learned a lot of the stuff that I learned when I was 23, 24, 25, if I would have picked up on some of those things when I was 15, 16, 17, then maybe I make a different turn here or there, and that makes something different for me. and for me particularly, it was always with like training and diet things. If I would have known or I would have had some better guidance in those areas, that would have been really helpful. And if I would have paid attention to some of the things that were around me, maybe they were there, maybe they weren't, but I know that I wasn't in the mental framework to pick up on them, even if they were there. You know, I would have.
Well, that's why it's always good to have a like the that's what I said about Charlie and I. I'm the rudder. I just try to guide him
Right.
through things.
Yeah.
He reminded me of something. It was a few years ago. So Charlie was probably about 13, 14, and one of my brothers was down with his family, and it was bedtime. Yeah, it was kind of bedtime. So my one nephew, both of them were boxers, they still are, and they went to bed a little bit early. So, anyways, Charlie was going to bed. I think he was 13. So I said, "You ready for bed?" All right. I said, "Oh, I'll come and tuck you in." So as I go upstairs, my brother goes, "You still tuck him in?" Like it was like weird to him. And I looked at him and go, "Yeah, man, of course." It wasn't like that weird, but he was like, and he kind of giggled. And I said, "Every night." So every night until it was until he started staying up a little bit later than me, I would tuck him in. And now Charlie's a big boy; he doesn't care that I'm saying this, but every single night since he was a little kid, I did it for me because I loved him to death, and I want him to know that I loved him. So I'd wrap him in there, and I'd say something like I'd joke around with him a little bit, but I'd tuck him in if he was tired, and I'd always grab him, wrap the sheets real tight, give him a kiss, give him a big hug, and I'd say, "You're the best kid ever. You're awesome." And I'd just say like a few phrases like that. Part of it was because I meant it. The other thing was because I know he needs to hear it, because I know a kid that hears that every day. If you hear every day that you're the best and you're loved and all that stuff, that's how a kid grows up feeling somewhat confident in themselves, right? So I remember my brother looking at it like, and I don't think I really explained it to him, but I'm like, there's not a chance I'll tuck this kid in until he's 45,
Until he makes me stop.
until
Yeah.
he makes me stop,
Yeah.
because it's important.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to say to you was the other day, he asked me a question. And I don't know if we leave this in or not. I'm not sure. He asked me a question. He goes, "Dad, do you think it was good for me this year, or could have been better if I played junior B or developed somewhere else?" So the question is basically, do you think having the first year as an OHL player is better to be there and not play as much ice as you normally would, or play like a junior B tier 2 somewhere else and get more ice and develop more? He goes, "Which one do you think is better? Do you think it served me well to stay?" I said, "Oh yeah." So this goes back to the mindset thing. I said 100%. Number one, you're with players that want to play in the NHL. So that's number one. You got more like-minded people.
Sick.
Yeah, environment. Yeah, environment.
There it is.
Number two, you're with the best players that you could possibly be with, that you're practicing with and playing against. And I'm not saying that he didn't. Every kid wants to play every shift. So this is what the point is. If he would have played somewhere else, he would have got power play, all that stuff, right? So I said, no, you can't buy that experience. Now, this is for him. Other kids would be different. You found a role. You found a role, and you played a role really well, and it established yourself in the league. So that's good. But I said the most important thing about this year, and I know you don't even understand it yet totally, is that mentally you can never buy what you got this year. You can't. What you found is that it's the process, and it's not anybody being good or bad or anything. It's just the process. When you get drafted, especially high, it's like the first date. You are the best. We can't wait to work with you. It's going to be the greatest thing in your life. We're so happy that you're with us. But what they really mean by that is like, we're glad we draft you because we see a lot of potential for the next, like in 2-3 years. That's the real question. Right. So he's heard that conversation before. This is what the mind, you hear this over and over, right? It's you're going to get a chance, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and then you realize that, well, everything said is not necessarily true. So all of a sudden you put another layer of crust on you, or how you respond to that is either you're going to fight through it or you're going to crumble, right? And then maybe it's a trade where you get knocked down a peg again, or like you're always getting knocked down a peg, or the coach or the media or whatever are now saying things to you that you never heard before, and the veterans, whatever. And what happens, you just start building more of a crust, or you become more of a whiner. And I said that crust that you put on yourself now mentally, like you're tougher than most men, just because of the mental battles that you had to go through, right? And so I said, like, so when we talk about the mental side on this, what inspires you, how to put things in your brain, always being aware of the mental side. That's why. because if you don't have that side, you could be talented, but if you don't have the mental toughness just to get through the day to day, you will crumble.
Yeah.
And it's really, really important.
Well, it's one of the most important things, and that's goes to the environment thing that we talk about all the time. It's like I was trying to make a couple weeks ago. We talked about I was trying to make a new like a new PowerTech thing, to something to do with the environment, and the one that I wanted to use that you guys didn't like, but was environment wins, because it does. Environment wins.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah. The side note of the slogan was like, we're thinking environment, like environmentally friendly or something like that, which not the point. The point is just that who you're around will make or break you. And in those times where things get difficult, or you have a mental struggle and you're trying to build that crust mentally to deal with shit of, you know, being a hockey player, or going through whatever the struggle is, even outside of sports or whatever. If you don't have a support structure in your environment around, which it could be a good parent, it could be like-minded people that you can see are also slugging it out, and that, you know, you can tell people get through this thing that you're trying to go through. If you don't have that, then it's a lot easier to go down the become a whiner and quit route, rather than, oh, okay, I see a lot of guys before me have done this same thing, because of, look at all the people that are around me. You know, look at the guys that are a few years older that have done the same thing, or whatever. And that's why the environment piece is so important. And you can get that environment physically, or you can get it on your phone. You could get it on what you watch, or what you read, or what you listen to, because like you said, you're going to get it either way. So if you're going to make a choice, you're making a choice whether you're intentionally making it or not. But if you could be intentional about it and you make a good choice, then that's all stuff that's going to help you rally. All those things that you listen to, all those things that you watch, all those things that you read are going to keep pushing you just a little bit.
That's all you need is a little bit.
But it adds
enough
up,
to
right?
get you through the next minute.
That's
to make
it, right?
a decision to keep going.
And it adds up. It adds up. It adds up. So, you know, back to when I was asking that kid, what do you do when you're at home? It's like, that's actually an important question to ask. And mom and dad too, man. Like, it's for a lot of the people that listen to this, it's just because they have kids that play sports, or they play hockey or whatever. And all of this stuff still applies to you. It all still applies to you. It's like, what are you doing? And you don't have to be a crazy person. It's just your default mindset is actually important. You know, I was talking with my Christine last night, and we're going on a trip. We're going to be gone for a couple weeks. And I was saying to her, like, we need to make sure that, because we're gone for so long, we have some kind of a routine while we're there, in terms of like trying to be healthy. Like, I don't want to be 14 days of just a shit show. So I was saying, I want to make sure that we're working out, right? So obviously there's compromise, because I really care about working out a lot, and she cares about working out, but she's a lot more willing to prioritize something else first, you know? And to me, it was like, it's a non-negotiable. It's like, we need to go into it thinking we're going to do it. And if something comes up that makes it unreasonable, or we can't get it done, then that's fine, right? We can make an adjustment. But not going into our task thinking we're not going to do it right off the hop, you know? And now that's an environment thing. So if I'm not there to say, hey, let's act like we're going to do this and plan to do it, then our mindset going in is just going to be, we're just going to take a break for 14 days or whatever.
Then you totally let go.
Now there's no chance, right? Now there's no chance. So instead of going in thinking, well, we're going to be really busy, we're going to have a lot of things to do, how about we just like, we'll see if we can do it. It's like, no, let's flip the mindset. We're going to do it. And if things get in the way of that, then we make an adjustment the other way, right? Because it's not about being a crazy person or anything. It's just the mindset difference, you know? So we're doing it. And then if things come up, then we can make an adjustment, rather than plan to not do the thing that we both know would be good to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and taking 1 hour of your day to do some exercise is not going to hurt you.
Exactly.
It's not going to ruin your trip.
That's right. And my point of that is just it's the mindset thing. It's the environment thing. It's like the people that you're around, or the people that you're talking to, your parents, the stuff that you're reading, the articles that you read when you're flipping through Twitter or whatever thing you're looking at, the videos you're watching when you're scrolling through TikTok, all that stuff, like to your point, it actually impacts you. It actually does, whether you acknowledge it or not. So especially as athletes, man, the sooner you can get a jump, on starting to pick up on some of these things. Because if you're not a 1% guy, like we said, which most guys are not going to be a 1% guy,
99% are
Yeah,
not
yeah,
1%.
99% are not the 1%.
I'm not a mathematician.
That's right.
But
You need every single thing going your way though.
Yeah.
You know? So like I was saying earlier, when I look back on my own playing thing, it's like if I would have had one more thing that I picked up on that could have helped me, and I'm sure O-Dog would say the same thing. I'm sure you would say the same thing about when you played. It's like if you had a couple more things that maybe would have been in your head during those critical years as an athlete, and Prouder said it when he was on the show, whatever, a couple weeks ago. You have your time is now when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, up to when you're 20. Like that's your time. Everybody
or
else,
if you're 17, your time's now. When you recognize this is what you want to do, you don't have time to think about it.
that's right. Whereas like other people that are maybe in your immediate surroundings, like they don't need to get into their career till they're 25, and they can wait. They have the time to wait. You don't have the time to wait, and it's unfortunate because you're immature and your brain isn't fully developed. But that's how the game is, man. Like that's how all sports are. All sports. It's like when you're 25, if it's not done, if you're not there, you're not going to be there. So
very, very, very unlikely.
very unlikely. So it's like these little things that you think don't matter. Like when you're at home, know what you're doing when you're at home.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the things that you're doing when you're not here. Because man, the freaking environment always wins, man.
Yep.
It always will win. Maybe pulling it back to kind of our demographic of talking to the athletes in particular, because that really stuck out when I was asking Buddy here the other day, like, what are you doing at home? So if you had to give from you as an adult, as an old man, what
I'm old, man. I'm not arguing. I notice I don't argue about it.
I know if you're gonna go give a couple tips in this realm, let's say, to the 14 to 18 or 19 or 20-year-old demographic on this type of stuff. It could be brain diet, it could be environment things, it could be whatever in that realm. What are like a couple pieces of advice maybe that you'd give from yourself or looking back on your own life or from what you see training kids or whatever?
Yeah. So just for the kid or for the families? For the
We'll
kid,
do
it's
kid.
harder because kids are not smart yet, right? Like it's hard when kids are dialed in, like because there's. I would say, like for a kid, do things like number one is you try to put yourself in environments, but try to do things that are hard, right? Like try to do a challenge of just to watch, like do like what I did that one time, like 500 burpees straight. It's stupid. It's stupid, but it's so smart because the reference point for me. Because in that, so the point of doing something hard is to put reference points of when was I going to quit? Because you're going to want to. When they can have all those reference points. When am I going to quit? Oh, it wasn't so hard. How do I break up this big goal into a small task? Stuff like that. So I would say find something to do that's hard, and do it. Like do it. And at the end of it, you're going to say, okay, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard, or it was ridiculously hard, but I did it, so I can do things. And I use like that burpee challenge for in my head a lot of the times. Just say, yeah, that was hard, but it wasn't the end of the world, right? I would say that you be really, really, really careful who you hang out with.
Oh, that's the golden rule.
But it's my biggest thing. Because Charlie every now and then he's got great friends. He does. He chooses his friends wisely. But I've watched him because we've made him aware of it. That if you hang out with Seabass and Liam Doyle and your hockey buddies that from around here that have a goal of making a team or moving on to the NHL or junior, whatever it is, then you're the same mindset. So now, when one wants to screw off one day and say, well, let's just go in have a bonfire and suck 6 beers back. Well, then Seabass is going to say, yeah, great idea, but we got boxing tomorrow. And then one could say, who cares? And then the other one says, well, I do, because I want to be fresh and we got sprints and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden your friends can kind of keep you on the right track. If he's with friends from high school, someone says, let's go drink some beer around a bonfire. Everyone says, yeah, 100%. And it would be like, oh, you only brought a 6-pack? Like, it's going to be right the other way. So that environment, your friends are absolutely the biggest thing for me, who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Just let me interrupt you for a sec. So I was talking with one of our guys yesterday, and we're on the way to we were driving to the track, and younger kid has had an awesome summer, and I was asking him about some of the kids on his team, like where's this kid, what's he been doing, how's his summer been, whatever, because not all of them were here. And so he's talking to me. He's like, "Oh, this guy, this guy, this," and "Oh yeah, how's his attitude?" And I was just asking about some of the guys, and he's telling me, "Yeah, like I don't know, this guy's kind of been falling off, and this guy, I'm not sure, like he's kind of doing his own thing. He's not as like dialed in as he could be, but these are the guys that he hangs out with, you know." And I was telling him, I was like, "Man, I know these are your buddies, whatever, but if those are some flags in your head, like that is cancer, dude. That is cancer. You've had a great summer. You've been in a great environment. You've made great steps forward. And now you're going to go back to your team where you're not in this environment as much. And it'll be real easy when you're around. If those are the main sources of information or inputs coming into your brain and that are around you, then that can be a big issue. So you need to be aware. And, one of the things we always encourage guys to do is, listen to podcasts, read books, and a lot of them don't want to do that yet, which is fine. But this is one thing that you can do, is if you look around and your friends are not doing what you're doing, or you're questioning their attitudes or motivations, or you walk away from a hangout thinking like, that was a little bit suspect or whatever. Like, listen to those signals, man. You need to listen to those signals. And I was saying that to the one kid I was talking to yesterday. Just while you were saying that, it just reminded me of how important that is, man. Because even in high school, like I remember a turning point with one of my friends. We went to there's a corner store when I was like grade 7 or 8, and everybody rides their bikes around in the summertime, right? Nobody can drive yet, so we're riding our bikes in our little clan. And one of my best friends at the time, 2 of his friends showed up, and I wasn't really friends with them, but it was like friends of friends kind of thing. And we went to this corner store, and the game was let's see who could steal the most things out of the corner store. And I couldn't do it. I went in, and I was like, I went along with the game, and I went in, and I was just like, I can't take anything. Like I actually couldn't do it.
That's
like
awesome.
I just froze up and couldn't do it. So I walked around the store like they did, like I was gonna do it, and then I came out and I was just like I couldn't do it, and I was kind of embarrassed too.
Yeah.
Like I came out.
Oh, you weren't cool at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't cool, right? I came out and I was like, man, like am I being soft, or am I just not cool, or what? And this guy's got 2 chocolate bars. This guy got this and a drink and whatever, and they walked out, and it was fine, and there was no consequence. It was fine. But I remember going home, like from that, riding my bike by myself home, just like, what the hell just happened? Like, what was that? Like, I'm not cool with that at all, And that was actually a turning point where I started to not be friends with this particular kid that had been my best friend since probably grade 4. So by grade 9, when I went to high school, I was no longer friends with this guy. And that's obviously a more extreme example. There can be more subtle hints if your best buddies started smoking weed all the time for some reason, or whatever fill in the blank thing they're doing that you are just like, I don't know if I want to do that. It's really important that you listen to those things, man. That is like the golden rule of I don't know if you would want to say being successful or reaching your goals or whatever. It's like your environment, it will shape you, man. It will shape you.
As you're talking about that, and Charlie's very fortunate because he's got 3 friends that are like really, really close friends that he knows he can't hang out with right now, except for every now and then. And they know that they're not good for him right now. And it's not like they're bad, but they're doing 16, 17, 18-year-old things. Because if they go out to, like I said, go to the bonfire,
no consequence
on Friday night and Saturday and Sunday, it doesn't matter. Outside of that, they might be hungover, or maybe they could be dragging their ass at their part-time job or whatever. But there's no consequence for it. So I love this because I didn't want to say too much because he's got to make his own decisions too. But I'm like, okay, what are you doing? What? He goes, no, Dad, don't worry. All right. He went out with him, not went out with him. He hung out with him twice, I think, this summer. And they say like, hey, Charlie, we're doing this tonight. We know that you probably can't because you've got training and they say to him to his face that we know like your time is to be dialed in right now, so we're just letting you know what we're doing, and that's good friends. That's good friends, dude, because you can't be buddies right now. Like you can only be friends from a sort of a distance, but they got his best interests at heart. Those are good friends.
That's a good. Sorry, I have to cut you off.
That's okay.
That's a really good point too, because all of this is not to say that people that aren't aligned with what you're doing, that doesn't make them bad people. You know, it doesn't make them. It doesn't mean that just because they're doing something that you're not doing, it doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to drag you down and keep you from. Because that's another thing that you could do is, you know, it'd be really easy for, if you have friends like that, to go to them and be like, well, you guys are idiots. Like, I can't hang out with you because you guys are being losers.
Idiots.
And they're not.
They're just not focused hockey players at 17.
Exactly. Right. So that's an important thing to point out. If you have friends that are like that, where it's like, yeah, I know you're doing this thing. We're doing this. I know you can't do that right now. So like, you do you. We'll still be buddies when your time comes that you can come and hang out with us or whatever. Those are still good friends. Like, it's not necessary that everyone is doing exactly what you're doing to the same degree and completely dialed in. It's just, you have to be able to pick your spots of where, you know, or who you're hanging out with, and when you're doing which things, and when it's appropriate to hang out with certain people and all that. And it doesn't make people, it's not necessarily true that they're bad people. That's an important thing to point out, right? It's just people are on different paths, and you have to pick your path, you know. And some people are going to be doing things that you shouldn't be doing, and they're trying to bring you down, and they are losers and they don't care. And if they bring you down, all the better for them, because they're not happy with their own life and all that. That can be the case. But there's some other people that just, they don't prioritize working out because they don't need to. Like, what do they have to work out for? You know? So that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Well, that environment thing, it's a snowball effect, because like when you hang out with people that are not like-minded, then all of a sudden it's, yeah, let's go to the bonfire. On the bonfire, let's stop at McDonald's. Let's do this. Let's get a bag of chips. Let's do this. And instead of doing one bad thing, and then you're up till 2 a.m, instead of one bad thing, or not bad, but one thing that's not ideal, you're doing 12, and then that's just not a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing I would say to do is, there's two things: is force yourself to create a habit, and that's, I would say, that'd be your workout thing, right? And then the other thing would be, you have to put the stuff in your mind, put good things in your brain. You don't have to read. You should read something, like, but again, that's a habit. Like, just, I'm not talking about read a 400-page book every night. I'm just talking about reading 10 minutes or one page of a titled book that
something
says,
you like.
Like, for example, the book, There's No Plan B in Your A Game. That's a pretty interesting title. You don't have to read the whole thing, but if you read a page a day, or 5 minutes, 10 minutes a night, there will be huge benefits in that. You don't have to like it. But if you do it, your brain will change. When you are watching things like What Do You Want to Be, like, that's what I say, watch a boxing documentary. Watch a Who's Your Favorite Player? Find out, or players, and find out if is there anything backdoor, what's their story, read about them and learn what they do, how they did it. And that stuff just fuels the brain a little bit. But ESPN 30/30s, those are phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, just on that too, like the information that you're listening to or reading or whatever. If you say that you care about being a hockey player, like, you care about that anyways. So why not listen to, watch, read things that are what you care about, you know? And all those things that are related to being a hockey player, you'll find them interesting. You'll like reading it. Like, if you're telling me, if you're a hockey player and you watch the Rocky movie, you're not getting fired up.
No, 100%.
It's like, you're getting fired up.
Yeah, watch around 14.
You know? Exactly. You know,
12,
so
whatever it is.
And that could be something that you're reading. It could be something that you're listening to. It could be whatever. So instead of, being at home, I don't know what I do when I'm at home, and you just mindlessly scroll. It's like, why not just take that time, and you can keep scrolling, but just scroll on things that actually relate to the thing that you say you care about.
Yeah.
Because it'll all just help.
Yeah. So, like, if you're on online, you can't find, let's say your favorite player is Josh Anderson, right? You can't find anything really outside of him hitting people. It might inspire you enough, but you don't know the background. It could be hard. But that's why it's important to be, like, it's environment again, but being around the people, right? You come to a place like this, and, like, Charlie's very fortunate. You can talk to O-Dog. You went second overall. Like, what was that like? What was the dressing room like? What was this like? And he goes, oh wow, that's all you see is success, right? Remember him asking Zach Cassian about his first year. This is before Charlie was even drafted. And Zach said, I thought, I was third or fourth overall in the OHL. And he goes, the first half of the year, first year really, he goes, I thought I was terrible because I couldn't get ice, I couldn't get points. Third, fourth overall. And he, gave Charlie advice. So that's why I want, so I'm using real time, but if you don't have access like Charlie did to talk to all kinds of guys and hear that same story, or hear what's going to happen or how they got through it, that's why you need to go to the YouTubes or the ESPN 30 for 30s. You have to.
Right.
Because I say this all the time. I don't know, and Oda, you might agree with this, because your parents probably didn't prepare you the way Charlie was prepared for the shitty parts of hockey, right? You walk in a dressing room and the guys are like, actually, you don't, because I remember I was the same way. I didn't have that preparation. But you walk in that dressing room thinking, okay, everyone's going to talk about the power play. Everything's about hockey. Then you realize 3 seconds in that it's not about hockey most of the time. It's about your mother's hot. Let's go drink this, that, and the other thing. And you're going, like, if you're an innocent kid or an unprepared kid, you're going, whoa, right? Like, whoa. Then you got to deal with that. That's now you're behind the 8 ball, because now you're just trying to fit in without being a wiener, right? 19-year-old guys doing 19-year-old things, and you're 16. So that's why the more prepared you can go mentally and know who you are, and that's the other thing I would say is know exactly who you are. Like for me, if like I've had several people say, in business and stuff like that, let's go to strip joint. I go, I don't do strip joints. I don't do drugs. I don't do strip joints. I'll drink some beer, but I don't do this. I don't do this. I don't do this. Like, it's a non-negotiable to me. So when people say, we'll go to a strip joint, I go, well, see you later. And I'm not mad at you. You go, I'm out. And they could call me names. They could say, well, what's wrong with you? Like, and whatever, all that stuff is like, it's just a non-negotiable. And I might not even say it to them like that. I'll say, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go in. That's something I don't do. So as a hockey player, or when you walk into a dressing room, it's your non-negotiables, right? Like, who are you? Have an idea who you are.
Yeah, and that's tough, man. That
I
is
know
tough.
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's always tough, because when your captain, who's 19 or 20 years old, doesn't like that you have this principle in your life, then you become even abrasive or unlikable in some ways. But you don't have to do it like that. But it's like, know who you are and what you stand for, and I hope that as kids are moving on, they stand for hard work, and they stand for having fun, for sure. Like hockey is the greatest thing in the whole world, but there's things you have to do first, right? Prioritize, do the hard thing first, so you can have the rest of it. So I think that's really important.
So then maybe on that note, finishing up, last question would be, you mentioned it before, maybe something for the families or parents or whatever along the same line of whatever environment, brain diet, preparation, maybe some advice for parents or the household that the kid is growing up in.
Yeah, it's just hard, man. I do know certain things at work. I know that I've said this a million times. I didn't raise my kid like sitting at the kitchen table. Like, yes, talking to him, but I raised my kid in the car driving to the rink. I raised him playing catch, and I raised him and got to know him and give him my principles of life by surrounding him with people and taking the guard down so that we can actually talk. I was never like, I never gave him motivational speeches and tell him you have to do this, do this. It was all his choice. But I created an environment for him where he, number one, he wanted to be like me in a lot of ways, and like my friends. Does that make sense? He wanted to be like my friends because all my friends were like who he wants to be. They're athletic, and they were good guys, funny, but there was always that thing that he saw, that you could be very, very, very serious at what you do with goals, and it's when it's that time, it's that time. There's nothing else that matters. But the other time, you can still be you can have a lot of fun, and you can be really smart, and you can do all these different things.
So you're kind of saying, like, be an example?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, but I understand, though. It's very hard for some people because they're, I was just telling you this earlier. It's very hard sometimes for me and we talk about this a lot. I grew up since I'm 4 years old in a hockey dressing room, right? My whole life. I'm 53, so that's 49-ish. 49 years in a hockey dressing room with hockey players. It's our own language. It's our own culture. Things that are absolutely normal in a hockey dressing room, when you step out and have a conversation at a dinner table or with a group of people that have never been that or only did a little bit, you're weird. Like, you're different. So for me, I don't know if I can ask that dad that has never been in this situation to create that environment. It's hard.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's really what you're asking. I think it's more like, regardless of what you're doing, what your job is, or whatever, it's like you want to be the example for your kid in whatever way that is.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't have to be in the hockey
No,
player
it doesn't
way.
have to be hockey.
Right.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, from my perspective, to give people advice, it's like, because I know what I'm thinking is, I know a lot of people say, well, yeah, but this is what you do. It's easy for you. I get that.
I know, but it'll be helpful.
But my other kids that aren't Charlie, it was the same principles, just it came down a different way.
Yeah.
So it was getting up early in the morning and getting stuff done, whether you're tired or you're hammered the night before or whatever. Still, I have to get up, have to work hard, have to treat my mom right. I have to be positive. I'm always reading a book, always doing things like that, always putting positive things and encouraging and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's nothing hockey.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with hockey.
Yeah.
So that's my nature, right? But create the environment, man. Like, that's what I would do at home. You have to create somewhat of an environment that, like, the biggest thing I think people make with their kids in general is they tell them what they need to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't let them build their own dream or build their own goals. Like, for Charlie, it was like, I could say, you need to get up every day, you need to work out, you need to work harder and all that stuff. That just is kids don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
If their buddy Dalton Prout tells them that, he might be more receptive. But even then, what you do is you have to tell kind of like stories and show examples without showing the example.
Yeah.
So, but then you got to take the guard down to let them, whatever. Like, reading a book, I did that with Charlie, right? I wanted him to start reading books. There's GSP. So here's an example. I know I was going in a lot of circles here. The GSP book, which I think is the greatest book on earth. So that's George St. Pierre, The Way of the Fight. If I said, Charlie, read this book, it's good for you. Not a chance. What I would do, though, is like, hey, Charlie, you know, he watches the fights, right? Did you see what he was talking? Or, like, listen to this, what he did. And I'll say he went to this gym in New York. He paid with his own money. He didn't make any money, but he would gather change, travel to go there. And he was the worst guy in the gym. And he said that he was going to be a world champion. And I go, can you imagine the mindset on this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Then we would talk.
Right.
So he'd get his mind around his own thoughts about that, right? So he's already seen that this is how winners think. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, it's cool. And it's funny because even from being around here, when we sit at the table over there and talk, they'll say things, it's all of them. It's not just, it's the guys that are here consistently. They'll say things that I know we've said to them before, but they say it like they thought of it. You know what I mean? Which is not a problem. Like, that's fine. But
maybe they just believe it as much as we do.
Exactly, right? But they've taken it in to whatever degree, and now they're saying it to me weeks later, months later, however long later, as if it's now their idea. And it's like, perfect. That's great. Because the environment worked. If you have that perspective now, it's like that's a great thing that I can hear that 3 months later that actually sunk in for you. You know,
one of the things that you do well, that I would say, like, as I'm thinking about this, is like, from a parent's environment thing. It doesn't even if you don't know hockey, I think it's just asking the right questions. So, like, when someone yesterday, you were asking Charlie, so when are you leaving? Okay. So next week you're coming in and skate a little with your dad and you're going to lift. He goes, yeah, just light, just keep moving. You said, well, why? Why light? Well, and then you explained to him, well, that doesn't make sense because you want to be strong, and you gave him a good reason to, oh, yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Or when someone says, can we just do that? You ask the why, and then they actually come up with their own conclusions without, see what I mean about parenting? You don't have to tell them what to do. You guide them.
Right.
Like, and the best way to guide a human being is ask a question.
Yeah.
You've done it with me and I know I do it with other people too, but you did it with me with, one was metabolism. Mm-hmm. You argued the point that you don't think my metabolism was slowing down. and we talked through it, and I said, yeah, maybe I've changed my mind a little bit about that.
Mhm.
You've done it on some of the times we make a topic for the podcast, and I said, that's I don't want to talk about that because of this, and then you say why, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually a thing.
Mhm.
You need that push in your life, and it's not
Yeah.
a push.
Yeah.
It's like a gentle pull.
Yeah, it's not an
almost, right?
argument. Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
I'm fighting you.
We're
It's just
working
like,
together.
yeah, working together, right?
And that's, I think, if the kids know that mom and dad, coach, whatever, is everyone's on the same team to achieve a goal together, then I think it works a little bit better.
Yeah,
right?
that's huge, man.
But it's really, really hard as a parent to do what I say, not do as I do. It's I guess it's mostly environment.
Yeah, the action's huge though, man.
Action's
That's
huge.
that's what my leave off of is. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, if you're a fireman, if you're a whatever.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
that,
okay. Can I just say, like, I know you're gonna want to cut this out, but I don't know if you should. Okay. There's a lot of hockey players that chew tobacco, right? Okay, there's a lot of players that chew tobacco. Like be surprisingly and alarmingly a lot of players that chew tobacco. Okay, so Charlie, when he was younger, he figured it out. He goes, "Dad, you chew sometimes, eh?" I said, "Yeah." So the thing is, I could say, and don't ever do it. Don't. It's bad for you. Well, that's not a really good answer, in my opinion. So as he got older, I was able to speak to him. I said, when you go play hockey, what's going to happen is most guys are going to be chewing, and you're going to sit there. I'm going to try it. I want to try it. I said, so the answer to this question is when you see a man that's your dad at 40 some years old still throwing a chew in his mouth every now and then, is that good? Do you think it's a choice, or do you think it's because I made a bad choice early? I said, this is what happens when you make a bad habit. When you choose a bad habit, you make a bad decision. So he's seen that, right? And he's got to make that decision. And I know the decision that he's made so far, and but he's got to live with it, good or bad, right? But the point is, if I say don't do it because it's bad, it's like the guy that says don't, he's got a dart in his mouth. He says it's bad for you. I wish it would have never started, and he keeps doing it. That's not the way to tell him not to do it. Well, you doing it, and you're still alive, right? Whereas I explain the principles to him. It's like if you do this, there's going to be a point where you can never get out, or the battle for you to get out of stop doing this is going to be so hard, right? And look at how ridiculous this is. You see a 30, a 40, a 50-year-old guy still in the habit of spending money on that. Like, it looks ridiculous, right? You don't see it when you're 14, 15, 16. You know, it's hindsight, but it's one way to guide.
yeah, man. I've really liked this episode because there's a lot of no bullshit, which is nice. It's just like actual life stuff, which is cool. That's what I love. I get good feedback on that about the podcast too. It's like there's no fluff. It's like we're actually just talking about how it actually is. We're not pretending that it's something that it's not, and from the lifestyle
What's the point,
stuff
though?
and
I don't like that. Like, it's like even like what's the point of being fluffy? Because it's realistic, right? People, if someone's watching this and they're saying, like, oh wow, everything's perfect in your world and in that world, and I'm the issue. No, everyone's got the same issues. It's
I think that comes through too. Like I think people can feel that when they listen to it, and maybe that's part of the reason why people like to listen to it, because it's actually relatable, because we're not painting a picture of, hey, it's going to be perfection if you do it this way. It's like, no, man, it's a battle. Everything's a battle always, and you're going to lose some of them. You're going to win some of them, whether you're mom and dad, whether you're the player, whether you're whatever coach, whatever the situation is that you're in. That's what I like when we talk about stuff like this.
It's never about being perfect. It's about failing. It's about failing and getting back up. And the guy that wins is the guy that keeps getting back up. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? As a parent, as a kid, as a player, as a coach, it's not about being perfect at all, ever. And the more that you understand that, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a bad shift, it's mentally get back, go have a better one, or do something to change. If you're having a bad night, right? Like, I'm in one right now, right? Because we had such a hard, physically draining summer. And I know this every year of my life, that it's like at the end of it, it's like you mentally get through, because it's like a marathon. There's that point in the summer or in the season, whatever it is in your marathon, that you have to mentally say, when you want to quit or you make the excuses, you have to mentally get out of it. Somehow you got to get out of it. You got to talk yourself, or just grind it through, laugh at it, whatever it is. But then the finish line comes. And when the finish line comes, it's almost like a relief, but then it's like, it's sad. We did this in the summertime. We're so happy that it was over because it's so draining, but then you're so sad because it's so rewarding, so much fun. That's going to happen in a hockey, whatever it is. That's your marathon. At some point, you have a marathon. You have to choose whether you're going to do it, whether you got to keep going. But it's about continuing to do it over and over and over. That's the bottom line. It's getting back up. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's
Yeah,
how
that's
you get
good,
through
man.
this freaking hockey thing. Life.
Nice. I enjoyed that.
Did you?
I think you did a good job today.
Great job.
I know. We didn't plan that at all either.
No,
which
I
is
know
cool.
that we winged it.
I know. Isn't that great? Okay. We'll leave it there. See you next week, all the humans.